Hello everyone, welcome to Anubhava Fireside Chat. Today we bring you our first Fireside Chat and it's a great one. We have with us 4 members from C.A.M.P, which is the competitive programming club of IIIT-B. We have Shlok Agrawal, who is a candidate master of ICPC Asia-West regionals. Next we have Anant Ojha, who is a master data science on Codeforces. We have Naitik, who is expert on Codeforces and has been to regionals. And we have Subhajeet, who is also a candidate master on Codeforces. Today, we'd like to start off by, I assume there's a lot of beginners in competitive programming in our audience here. Let's start with the most obvious question. How did you get interested in competitive programming and what built your interest in it?
So for any other person who is like in the first year, so for me personally it got started because like the people around me were doing it. So I started basically like that, but like doing it seriously, it started around the summer break of first year, I think. That's when I seriously started doing competitive programming, and the motivation to do it was all just really fun to me to solve problems and like to get that green accepted sign on Codeforces. That was really fun to me. That's all.
I started because a friend of mine in IIT said that I would enjoy it and I would be decent at it, so I tried. Plus, I knew Naitik beforehand, and like he's a senior and he was already doing it, so he also helped me with it. So it was, I enjoyed it. Plus, I had people around me doing it, so it was easy.
For me, it was mostly the competitive thing in CP. So like competing with people around the world and getting better answers than them and coding faster than them. I liked something like this, and I tried CP. Initially, it was a little difficult, but as soon as you get the hang of it, it becomes really interesting, and you like to fight for better ranks, and you like to fight for better ranks, and as soon as you get to a certain level, you start learning more and more things, and it just becomes fun after that.
Similarly, I do had people around me doing CP, and it is really a good kind of peer pressure that is put on you to continue giving contests and all. And I would like to give a shout out to our seniors, Aditya, who just left. He graduated last year, and there was Solanki and Ayush Mishra and all. They had a really good influence. They were a really good influence on us. They had conducted a contest and they inducted into C.A.M.P and really got us started. We were started already, but they got us going. They inspired us in a way.
Thank you. I think you're doing a great job following them and inspiring the young people to figure it out. So I think everyone knows how important CP and DSA is in cracking job interviews and OAs. But is there anything else that CP has helped you in academics or just anything?
I guess academics, like there are a few courses which are related to it, like discrete mathematics, DSA obviously. So those become pretty easy. But apart from that, placements is one thing, obviously. Other thing would be, it's like a fun hobby, right? It's like a fun pastime. Instead of, it's just like something you can do with your time, which might interest you. Other thing, which I read somewhere, not my opinion, was that a lot of, like in terms of programming, right? A lot of coders fall into the trap of thinking about code. Like when they're thinking, they think about code instead of the process they want to do. Computer programming kind of nudges you in the direction of disassociating yourself from your code and thinking about it independently. Code is just a secondary thing which can occur. If you think about code, think in terms of code, you kind of restrict yourself.
So I'll agree with most of what Shlok said, and it kind of helps you like improve your intuition, and the things you learn in competitive programming, they are generally used across computer science. So when you're working on some problem or maybe some research problem or some project problem, you can always try to reduce it to some competitive programming problem, and then that's a nice start to look at any problem which you get during your course.
Yeah, I don't have anything much to add, but I just want to say that doing CP would in general improve your aptitude and your problem solving skills. So that is not just something applicable for CP, but it can help you in your general life. So try to do it.
I don't have much to add, except that I would also like to say that academics shows up in competitive programming as well. So things like you spot things like the exploration, trade-off, and things like that in CP as well.
Yeah, I do wish I had taken the number theory course more seriously. Okay. So competitive programming can, for beginners, be very intimidating to get into. Like you open up a question, the Codeforces site is very ancient looking. So how do you say that people should start getting into it? What are some resources they could use? Something to make it less intimidating.
So you can go about looking at various sites. So if Codeforces is intimidating for you, then you can try CodeShift. You can look at various resources. There is USACO guide. There is CSCS. I think. Yeah, CSCS. And it's really beginner friendly if you want to learn a topic in a nicer way. That really helps. Otherwise, don't get intimidated with it. Just take it as a sport and nothing more. So just don't take everything on your head. So if you think you are enjoying it, just keep doing it. Just like how you would do for anything else.
Okay, Codeforces site is ancient, okay, but it is very functional. Like you can find whatever you want. So once you get past it looks old, it is very functional. It grows on you, okay. So I would recommend starting with Codeforces, or if you want to find problems, go to some ladders. Like when I started, there was A2 Ojha. Now it's pretty updated, so you can do C2 ladders, and you can do you can find questions on Codeforces outside of Codeforces. If Codeforces is initially intimidating, you can do that. Also, initially, I started doing random A2 Ojha 800, the easiest problems on Codeforces, which just requires 3 lines of basic logic. Other thing which really helped me was this thing called Competitive Programmers Handbook. It is very nicely written for beginners. So in my first semester, I just read through that, half of that, and it gave me an idea of how things are.
One thing I want to add is that except your individual effort, you should try to do CP in a group. Not give contests in a group, but try to discuss the problems with your friends, and that will just help you get different approaches for the same problem, and that in future will help you grow as a proper CPI.
A lot of times when I ask for advice, how do I get better, a lot of people say solve questions that have a rating higher than you. So do you have any other advice? How do you choose which rating questions to solve when you decide to move on to the next level? Any suggestions?
So you can look at various factors. So you can think of let's say you started doing a 1900 rated problem, and initially it would take you 60 minutes to solve it. Now it's taking you 20 minutes to solve it. So that's one factor. You're seeing that you're improving on those 1900 rated problems. Or you can see that you can look at your contest performances. You can see that 1900 is pretty basic for you right now. So you can try and solve harder problems. That's what you can do.
A lot of times when I'm giving a contest, or anyone, you'll see a question and it seems extremely unapproachable and you have no idea where to start. What do you do for these questions? You just keep staring at the screen, or is there a method you use to start?
So, obviously, you would not want to keep staring at the screen. So, you'd have to do something, and to do something, you would like to get some observations out of the question. So what you can do is you can try printing some random values for a particular function about the question. So let's say your problem required something, and that something, maybe it's not very Googleable or you cannot find it anywhere. So what you can do is you can try running brute force approaches, and you can try to find some pattern if there is any. That is a way to do it. Otherwise, you can just open up your mathematics dictionary and just go into it and just because at last everything is just mathematics. So you can just try writing everything into an equation and try to reduce it. Try to get it into a forms which is familiar to you. Not just mathematics or some trivial problem which you have already solved, and you would like to transform the problem which you have right now to that problem which you have already solved. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, so I would like to add that if problem seems extremely unapproachable, like you have zero idea of what is going on, usually you're missing some fundamental observation, right? So to observe, so you want to make that observation. To do that, what I like to do is work on some very small examples and see how my brute force, there would be some way to achieve the output, right? So see how that achieves it. That sometimes gives an observation. Other things is, suppose the question is, reduce the question to something else. Anant also mentioned it. So suppose the question is, solve for if this is this, if A, if B, if C, if D. So if you can solve, and then you try to solve it without any conditions, the extreme basic form of the question. See if you can solve it. Doing that a few times usually leads to some observation about the question, which leads you to make more observations and then eventually solve the problem.
I want to tell you about one of the things that Ratin, who is our senior, told me. He said that when I'm trying to solve a problem, try to write the approach in which you are going. Try to write out the directions in which you went, and try to look at the editorial. If you're not able to solve the problem, look at the editorial. And look at the point where you differ from your solution to the editorial solution. And try to think about the thing that you thought at that point and what you thought was wrong. And if you keep doing this process for long enough, then eventually you will always go in the right direction. And for your level, you will solve the problems more easily than what you used to before. And eventually your rating would improve.
I took to stress on this point about hindsight. Right? You can't just look at the editorial and leave it be. You have to look at the solution and then implement it yourself, and then think about how you could have come up with the solution with the things you already had.
So for those who don't know, an editorial is an article type of thing on Codeforces where after a contest is over, all the questions, solutions are published. So there are conflicting opinions on whether you should look at the editorial when solving questions, how much time you should take. So what are your opinions on if you should look at this, when you should give up, basically?
Okay, again, this is a very controversial topic and everyone has a different opinion. Every opinion is correct, as in you don't really know what is correct. Something works for everyone. I know people who are really good who never look at editorials. I know people who have reached very high ratings who barely try a problem, just look at the editorial, implement it, and then click on this. So there's the whole spectrum. What I like to do is I try it, and as the previous question, some problem seems extremely unapproachable. I have no clue what's going on. Then I look at the few lines of the editorial and then try to come up with something and then repeat the process.
Yeah, you can. You should actually use the editorial as much as you can. But if you have this if you have this thought process in you which said that if you look at the editorial, you're not good enough, then also if you're enjoying solving the problem, as long as you are going about getting some ideas, you can keep continuing it. Even if for days or for 3-4 days, you can continue thinking about that problem. So it's totally fine. And if you're totally stuck, then obviously your editorial is the best place you can go to.
I would also agree with Anant regarding this concept of giving yourself partial credit. You should not, if you can come up with 2 observations out of 5, then yeah, you did some work. You should not give up saying I'm not good enough.
Okay, so recently I came across a profile which had 1900 questions solved, and they had started solving questions in Jan of this year, and they were 14-year-olds. So obviously that is not viable in college with all the academics and stuff. But what do you suggest? How many is there a limit to how many questions you should be solving every day, and should you be giving every rated contest, or is there a limit to which you get better and then you stagnate?
Like it depends for people. For me, I just enjoy like giving contests and solving problems, so I just keep doing it. Obviously, you should not give too many contests so that you are like burnt out for the rest of your semester, rest of your day. So, you should not give contests like in a way to assess yourself. So you should again, I emphasize on this, doing competitive programming as a sport. So if you really enjoy doing contests, do as many contests as you want. Solve as many problems as you want to. So there is no lower bound or upper bound. There are people who have solved too few problems and they are still at like really high level. And there are people who have solved too many problems and who kind of like who are trying to force competitive programming on them, even though they don't enjoy it much and they are like not really good at competitive programming.
A lot of times before a contest, I don't know if you all do, but I definitely feel like, am I going to lose rating? Should I give this contest? So how do you decide, or how do you deal with this fear of losing rating?
I faced this like maybe about 1.5 years ago, and you just stop caring about the rating. That's the only answer. Like easier said than done, but that's the only way. You shouldn't care about your rating.
So yes, when I was like looking at 1 year ago, so I used to be like really affected by the rating changes. So positive delta would make me really happy, and a negative delta would make me like want to go home. So it was pretty bad for me. But then there were things. Then I started. Like I would not advise you to do this, but I stopped giving contests for like 4 months, and in those 4 months I used to just practice a lot. And during that phase, I understood that rating means nothing to me. I just enjoy solving problems, and that's what I'm going to do. And after that, I don't really care about rating.
Have you ever like stagnated at a rating, and how do you push past that?
Yeah, I for a very long time was stagnated at specialist. So like I asked these guys only, so what should I do, right? So one thing that I figured out was that I need to figure out what issue was I facing, right? There are certain kind of problems that were asked in Div 2C or certain level of problems that I was constantly getting stuck at, right? And it does not necessarily mean that I'm getting stuck at a higher level problem. Sometimes it happens that it's an easier problem, but I overthink the problem and I am not able to solve it, right? So for something like this, you need to have the mindset very clear that for these kind of problems, this is something that I need to think. And you might be solving very high level problems while practicing, but giving a contest is very different from practicing problems. So you have to figure out your strategy of giving your contest and your strategy to practice in certain way so that you can improve.
Okay, so different answer to a different question. I have stagnated on my will to take contests. Okay, so what usually happens is the top rating is X. Okay, for everyone. Some maybe 1-2 people reach X plus 1. I'm like, okay. There are a few months later, I come to a realization, okay, I also want to become X plus 1, so I grind a few problems, get a few contests, and then become X plus 1. So, answer to a different question. So, that can also happen where you just get bored. Okay.
What is some like misconceptions about competitive programming? Some like rumors about it, something that you feel is not true that a lot of people believe about competitive programmers or competitive programming? Is there anything?
That you only do it for placements. You cannot really do it just for placements because if you don't really like it, it is basically impossible to stick to it, right? So you only do it because you enjoy it. That's the only thing.
most people relate the competitive programming rating with their IQs. So that's nonsense. So I believe that anyone who has worked well enough and who likes doing competitive programming can reach any level what they want. Like not any level. So like people who are LGM they are like probably born with this. But anyone can reach at least Grandmaster or international close to Grandmaster Codeforces.
One thing is that a lot of people feel that unless you have studied DSA, you cannot start competitive programming. That is not at all true. Cognitive programming is a mixture of mathematics and data structures and algorithms. It is not just DSA. So even if you have good mathematical aptitude, you can reach a very good rating. And I feel that on the way while learning CP, you can learn everything that is needed. You don't need to specifically first learn something and then start CP.
Some people think that topic-wise practice helps, but most of the seniors advised against it, and I would you should solve random problems.
Yeah, so that does bring up an important question about how you learn a new topic. Like if you want to get started with DP or if you want to get started with graphs. So would you suggest just doing it as they come randomly, or would you suggest specific practice for those?
Yeah, like you'll have to trust the process. So if many people have done this and they say that this works, so you'll have to believe that someday I'll like encounter a graph problem and then I'll learn graph. So that is going to happen. If you practice a lot, then that is going to happen. And like if you take graph, it's a like really basic structure. So generally people after reaching a certain like level, they like if they like search for blogs on how to get from this rating to this rating, they generally recommend you to like learn graphs and learn all the basic things. But like for the advanced things, you will have to trust the process. You will have to wait for that problem to come up and then read it.
How do you go about 5 minutes before the contest? Like, how do you mentally prepare for it? Is there anything you do, some rituals, something 5 minutes before the contest?
Like I said earlier that I used to get stuck in easier problems. So I asked one of my seniors and he advised me that I should choose a very easy problem and solve that before starting my contest. What that does is that it activates my mind and gets me in the mindset of solving the problem, and just it's easier for me and it saves some time while I'm solving the starting easier problem.
So for me, I just love to listen to music during contest and like 5 minutes before contest just to calm myself. And it doesn't necessarily have to be calm music. I listen to all kinds of music during contest. Really helps me.
This is not 5 minutes before the contest, but in general, I don't like to give a contest cold before nobody. I mean, like if I have practice during the day, only then I will give the contest.
Okay, so I think let's move on to the ICPC related questions. I think everyone here has either been to ICPC or very seriously giving it this year. So how do you approach practicing for this contest? Like you have to make a team, and what is a typical practice session for ICPC look like for you?
Do you mean for prelims or for regionals?
Let's talk about both.
Okay, so my team has never really like specifically practiced for prelims. We have only practiced for regionals. To clarify, regionals format is different than prelims. As in prelims, that's only 2 to 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours, and it's a remote contest. It's an online contest, and all 3 members are allowed to use their separate PCs. And whereas the regionals format is, it's like a 5-hour contest. There's only one PC, like one keyboard, one monitor, one mouse. Okay, and you can print your code. That's very different. All right. So time difference is there. That is manageable. But sitting for 5 hours at a time can be unusual for people. But the main difference comes from there's only one PC. So suppose there are 2 people, 3 people are in the team. So 2 people have simultaneously just got a logic for a question. Okay. So now you have to decide which one to code, right? And one person is coding, and there's some bug in the code. So now you have to decide between giving that person that computer time to debug the code or giving the other person time to code a new question. So that creates a lot of conflict. So that you can get out through a lot of 5-hour months practice. And with that, prelims practice kind of happens automatically. When you get 3 computers after that, it feels like a blessing that you can do anything.
Yeah, I hope people don't get intimidated by all this regional talk. You are just starting, so just focus on Codeforces, the slightly more advanced thing for people who are intermediate. So a lot of people struggle on deciding a team for ICPC. Do you have any advice on which teammates you should take? Should you split take a person who is better in some topic? Or do you just end up with whoever is the best rated person who will take you?
So like if you're creating a team, you generally want to you generally want things to happen in parallel. So if there are 2 people and both of them know the exactly same topics and not the other ones, so that if there is a problem which requires you to know that other topic, so you'll get stuck on that, and that will hamper your team. So like my team, Subhajeet is the number theory guy, is the mathematics guy, and like me and the other we are not really good at math, so that.
On any open ICPC, there's 7 questions, and in Codeforces, normally questions are A, B, C, D, and that is their normal difficulty. That is not the case in ICPC. So, how do you go about reading a question, figuring out whether it's solvable or not?
So what usually happens in the beginning is everyone initially takes up a question and then goes through, all 3 members goes through the whole problem set once. Just look at the question. If it's immediately solvable, you solve it. If it piques your interest, you maybe dedicate like 1 or 2 minutes and then mark it for later. At that point, you either one or 2 things happen. Either there is a summation on a question, like an AC on a question. So you go straight to that. That's the easiest problem. You should solve that first. Other thing is you find the easiest problem and you solve it first. So the first thing is hunting for the easiest problems and potentially finding problems which you can solve later.
So I just look at the problems with shorter statements. That's how I go about.
Mostly Anand scopes for problems and things.
So I'll talk about regionals and like in-person ICPC contests. It sounds extremely intimate, like where all the contestants giving that contest are in the same room as you. So how has that experience been?
How is it intimidating? All your life you have been sitting like in a room full of people giving exams. It's the same thing. You just forget that there is like a contest. Like everyone, you forget about everyone else. You just focus on your contest. Just like how you would give like an answer.
It does happen that sometimes when you have like top ranked teams sitting beside you, and like, okay, there is a thing like they put balloons as soon as you solve a problem, right? So you see like 5 balloons on their given, and then you feel that, okay, yeah, they are solving a lot of problems, but at that time you need to focus on your team, and you need to know that you don't always have to be first. Your primary motive is to get into the top 10 or like the next selection criteria, right? Because you are not always fighting to be first, right? So keep that in mind.
If you speak in general about this, if you see that somebody else has solved a problem, it should give you more confidence that that problem is solved.
Yeah, we would once again like to thank all of you for taking your time and attending this session. I'm sure everyone has been helped by it. Thank you. Please follow Anubhava on Instagram and YouTube. We try to post often. We also have a Medium page where we post our text versions of interviews. So please check that out. Thank you.